everyone. Welcome to Breakthrough Conversations. My name is Danielle Perry and I'm the host. You already know I'm so excited that you're tuned in today. And if this is your first time, this is a podcast that features people of all ages, and they share a bit of their story about how God has helped them to overcome a difficult challenge, situation, or season in their lives, or maybe they're on their way to overcoming with God's help. Well, this episode is unique. This episode is an episode of more wisdom that you're going to gain, I hope and pray. And it features none other than Mrs. Marilyn Richardson. Mrs. Marilyn, thank you again for just being a part of this podcast and just sharing a bit of your story. And the title of this episode, which is episode 20, it's titled Giving Birth at 44, a Baby Boomer Raising a Gen-Zer. Wow. A pretty loaded title. I'm super excited for you to hear the wisdom nuggets that she'll share. And also just, again, a bit of what it's like to have gone through a season that kind of is opposite of what our society standards are. And what do I mean by that? Our society kind of places a demand on being married at a certain age, having children at a certain age, but everyone's story is different. Everyone's story is unique to them. And so I'm just excited about you hearing from a woman who had a baby later in life. And I know that there are other women out there who can relate. And dads too. I'm not excluding the dads. These stories are not only for wives and mothers, but husbands and dads too. So without further ado, I'm excited, y'all, for you to hear, for you to see. This is episode 20. Enjoy and be blessed. Is Mrs. Marilyn Richardson.
Yes, hello, and thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For having me. This is an awesome platform. I am a big fan of all of the episodes, and it's impactful, it's reaching, it's informative, and my prayer is that this episode be the same.
Thank you so much. Thank you. My prayers are that it will be the same as well, and I do believe it is.
Yes.
I do believe that your story and what you're going to share is going to bless people that are in your shoes. And maybe that are not in your shoes, because I've heard that episodes have blessed people who maybe couldn't really relate, but just the information they share blessed them, right?
Great.
So I was very grateful when I heard that. But today I have you on to talk about giving birth at 44 years old.
Yes.
And you being a baby boomer, raising a Gen-Zer.
Absolutely.
Wow.
God's got jokes.
God's got jokes. I love it. So I want you to just, before we dive into the questions, just introduce yourself and just tell a bit of who you are.
Sure. I am Marilyn Richardson. As Danielle said, I am a native of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. In West Philadelphia, born and raised.
I love it.
Matriculated through the Philadelphia public school systems, graduated, and was blessed with a scholarship to West Virginia University.
Okay.
Which was a transition in itself.
Yeah.
Went there, attended the university. At that point, I had always been a church goer.
Okay.
But I was not a committed Christian. So during my campus life, I made that transition.
Okay.
Later, then moved me somewhere else, and I met my husband, and I'm here today.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. Well, we're going to start off with talking about before you got married, right? We're going to backtrack just a little bit and just talk about a relationship that you were in prior to. And if you can just share a little bit of whatever you want to share about that relationship to kind of give context to why you married later in life and had your child later in life.
Absolutely. I was in a relationship prior to the period in my life when I met my husband. And I wasn't the youngest at that point. I was still in my 30s.
Okay.
And wonderful gentleman, singer, preacher, the whole package.
Okay.
And I'm sharing this to let people know that it is so important to pay attention to the Holy Spirit. Everything that comes to you might not be for you. And so it was at one point when I realized that that was not for me. As wonderful a person as he was, and all of our friends, oh, I can't see you with anybody else, but there's that still small voice that we have on the inside of us. And he said, no, not now. And so I had to end the relationship, which propelled me to the place where I should be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So after that relationship, how many years passed before you met your husband?
Very short period of time.
Okay.
That relationship ended, I want to say, in 1991. And I met my husband in 1993.
Okay.
So about a 2-year period of time in
Gotcha.
between.
Okay. Okay. So about a 2-year period. Now, during those years, what was singleness like for you? Were you looking to be in a relationship around that time, or were you still kind of healing and trying to figure out, okay, God, what do you have for me? What was that like?
Yes, I would say it was definitely a healing period. I was not looking to be in a relationship. At this point, I was transitioning from West Virginia to Oklahoma, where I believed that God was leading me. I was furthering my ministerial education. And so my life was kind of full. And kind of busy, with ministry, business. And I don't think that I had, and I believe God did it that way, because I didn't have time to feel like I'm missing something, I'm looking for something, I'm empty. But in that same period of time, God was definitely healing and preparing me for what was to come.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, did you meet your husband in Oklahoma?
I did.
Okay.
I met my husband in Oklahoma. We were attending a Bible training center there in Oklahoma, and I had been there a full year before he came. It's just a 2-year program. So as I was entering my second year, he was coming in for his first year, and we met through a mutual friend.
Okay. Okay. And what was your first impression?
I have to be honest and tell you my first impression. We were actually at a dinner celebration for our mutual friend's daughter. It was the daughter's 21st birthday, and she was having a dinner party in her home, and she invited us both. And so we were there, and we were in this space, and we met. And I think for the rest of that evening, although there were other people there, I felt like it was just the two of us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we were just kind of to the side talking and laughing. We ate together, and it was just a very comfortable place.
Yeah.
So I think that at that moment, I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, how long was it before you both decided to get married? How long did you court and then move into marriage?
Okay. We met in November of 1993. And, so I'm thinking in my mind, yes, okay, he likes me, I like him. The rest of November passed, the rest of December passed, and I never heard from him. And I was like, maybe I got it wrong.
Right, yeah.
So the Christmas break came, and then in January of 1994, he reached out to another friend of ours and asked for my number and gave me a call. And he said he had been wanting to reach out to me, but that he had left some unfinished business as far as relationships go at home. And so he felt like the honorable thing to do, being a man of God, was to go home and end that and then come back before he would reach out to me.
Yeah. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, right?
No,
I can't blame him for that.
It was rather impressive.
Absolutely.
It was rather impressive.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So what age did you get married?
I got married at age 37.
37.
Yes.
Okay. You were married at 37.
Yes. I met him when I was 36. As I said, in January of that year, he reached out to me. My birthday was in March.
Okay.
I turned 37, and on my birthday, he asked me to marry him. And we were married in August.
Wow.
4 months later. So.
Wow. Wow. Awesome. I love it. So describe to us just what you were feeling on your wedding day.
On my wedding day, I was feeling, okay, so first of all, let me say that it wasn't a traditional wedding day. Okay. And I say that because we were away at school. We made the decision to get married there.
Okay.
My family had offered for us to come to Philadelphia, have the whole church wedding, you know, the whole blowout thing. But when you're 37 years old and you're kind of settled in the things of God, I didn't feel that all of that was necessary. So we actually got married at the courthouse chapel
Okay.
in Tulsa with about 30 friends.
Okay.
No one from either family
Okay.
was there because I just didn't feel like I needed all of that.
Okay.
You know, and I want to make a point of that because so many times people think I have to have this fairy tale wedding, and
Absolutely.
you know, if I don't spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, you know, it's not worth it. But it's not the wedding that is as important as the marriage.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
I was excited, but it wasn't a big grand hoopla.
Right,
thing.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I can understand that perspective because, like you said, you were 37. I mean, by that time, you're more settled in with your life,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
So it makes sense.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
So after you were married, did you both want children right away?
Do you know, I was thinking about this in preparing for this episode. I don't know that we ever really actually talked about wanting children. I was blessed to become a mom to an awesome bonus son when I married my husband. And I think that was fulfilling my maternal needs. I think I felt like at that point, this was how I had been chosen to mother.
Okay.
And I was fine with that.
Okay. Okay. Well, hey, there you go. Now, as far as conceiving, because I'm trying to think of our conversation we had at the restaurant a few months back. What was that like? Were there any complications?
Okay, so I want to say it was maybe in 1995, 96. A pastor came to our church from, I believe, West Africa, and he asked to pray for all of the couples. So my husband and I went up for prayer, and he said to us before he prayed for us, he said, "You're going to have a baby." And I was kind of like Sarah. You know, I was like, oh, yeah, for real.
Right.
You know, as a matter of fact, I even remember kind of joking in the car with my husband when we left the service. I was like, I don't know if it was the altitude or the length of his flight, you know, from where he came from here, but really, for real, you know, a baby. But I received the word of the Lord. And that was, like I said, 95, 96.
So how long were y'all married at this point?
Let's see. We had been married then about 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
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 95, 96.
So you're in your early 40s.
I'm in my early 40s. And actually around, I want to say 98 or 99, we conceived.
Okay.
And so I thought, okay, so
Right.
this is it.
This is it.
You know,
Yeah.
this is the fulfillment of my Sarah laughter moment.
Absolutely.
And so we conceived, and unfortunately, we miscarried. That was a very hurtful time in my life because I felt like, I kind of felt like, God, I didn't even ask you for this. I wasn't asking you for this. You said that it was going to happen. And now I'm thinking it's happened. And it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I wasn't bitter. I was confused. And at that point, my mentality, although I did not verbalize, it was, okay, then you know what? That's that. I'm done.
That's right.
So yes, we did have one miscarriage before we actually were able to successfully conceive with CJ.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you were married for how long before conceiving CJ?
7 years.
7 years.
7
Wow.
years.
Wow. 7 years.
Yes.
Okay. So 7 years into your marriage, you conceived with CJ. How were you feeling?
I was, number one, feeling in denial. And when I say that, because of my age, when I didn't see certain things that we normally see as women, I just assumed a different change was taking place. And but in the back of my mind, and that still small voice I talked about earlier was like, no, this is not that. So I was first in denial. And then I said, okay, so what's it going to hurt to take a home pregnancy test? Okay, that won't hurt anything. So I go to the store and I buy a box of 2. And so I go home and the first one is negative. So I'm thinking, okay, that's what I thought.
Right.
You know, but then again, that I keep making reference to this still small voice. And I'm like, okay, so I got the other one here. No harm, no foul.
Right,
I'll take the second one. So I took the second one and it was positive.
Wow.
So I was a little bit excited.
Okay.
But I went back to the store because now I felt like I needed a tiebreaker.
Absolutely. Let me just make sure.
Yes. So I went back to the store and I got some more pregnancy tests and all of them that I took after that. And I say all of them because there were 4 after that.
Wow.
All of them were positive.
Wow.
And so I was very excited and very nervous because we had miscarried. Yeah. And I did not want to have to go through that again. So I was nervited. I was nervous and excited.
Okay,
yes,
nervited.
yes,
I think I'm stealing that word. Okay, now how was Mr. Carlton feeling?
Mr. Carlton was over the moon excited. He was extremely excited. And I began to reach out to people. I'm sure I called my family at home, my mom, my sisters. I know that I did. The first person I remember telling face to face, other than Mr. Carlton, was his mom, you know, my mother-in-law. And so it was after church on a Sunday, and I asked her, I said, can I speak to you in your office for a minute? Because remember, I'm still nervited.
Right.
And so,
right.
And so I went to her, and we closed her door, and I said, Mama, you know what? I think I'm pregnant. And she was just like, over the top excited, you know, very encouraging. Yeah. Oh, Marilyn, that's wonderful. And I needed that because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, is it really wonderful? Right. You know, is it going to be the same as the last time? Yeah. But everyone's excitement was propelling me forward. Yeah. So it was a good time.
Awesome.
It was a good time.
Awesome. Yeah. Now, being that you conceived at 43,
44.
You had CJ at 44, so
I conceived at 43.
43,
You're right?
Right?
Correct.
Okay, because I'm going to get to the born date. I'm going to get to that.
Correct. Thank you for correcting me. Yes.
No problem. So geriatric pregnancy, did I say it right?
Correct.
Okay. Now describe that term.
The term geriatric pregnancy medically describes a pregnancy where the female is age 35 or older. And when you go to your OBGYN, your medical file actually says geriatric pregnancy. And they do that because there are additional tests that they want to offer you to kind of give you an indication of the viability of the fetus. Right. And so that's when I became familiar with that term and with all that went with it. Right. Because there were additional tests. They're trying to give mothers the opportunity to find out if there's a significant problem in the event that those that believe in terminating pregnancies would want that option. Right. So I went through a few of those. I remember being sent to a geneticist first, which I thought was fantastic. So I went to a geneticist and I gave them all of the information that they asked for, and they come back with a report. And the report was that from all of the information I had provided from both sides of our family, that this baby stood a chance to live to be 102 years old. So I was like, okay, you go, God.
Absolutely.
So that was good.
Yes.
And then I had another test called a nuchal translucency, which is a special kind of ultrasound.
Okay.
First, they do blood work, and they look for various markers, chromosomal abnormalities, and that type of thing. And then in this particular ultrasound, they measure the base of the fetus's neck.
Okay.
And there are certain indicators if there were to be, say, some presence of the markers for Down syndrome or any of those types of things. So I went through those tests, and CJ came through with flying colors.
Wow.
I mean, his numbers on everything were just phenomenal. And I know that God allowed me to have those because I needed that peace. I needed that peace.
Absolutely.
And the only other thing they can send you for, there's one more test that they can send you for, which I opted not to take because she asked me, if we send you for this last test and we discover that there is a problem, do you have any intentions to terminate this pregnancy? And I said, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Because I felt like whatever God gives us is what we're intended to have.
That's right.
So she said, if you're good with that, let's go and let's have a baby.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. So, did you experience any complications with your pregnancy at all?
Not one, Danielle. When I
Wow.
tell you God graced me,
Wow.
I always laugh with my friends and say, that's God's gift for old people having babies. But I did not experience, I never had a day of morning sickness.
Oh, wow.
Other women out there, don't kill me. This is my story.
Right.
I never had a day of morning sickness. I never had any nausea, never had any swelling, never had any back pain.
Wow.
I mean, when I tell you God let me walk through that
Yeah.
pregnancy like a 27-year-old
Yes,
woman, he
yes.
absolutely did.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Praise God for that. So, when you found out your baby's gender, was that during your pregnancy or did you
Yes.
find out later? Okay.
No, we
okay.
found out during the pregnancy
Okay.
at the ultrasound where they were going to, he asked us, did we want to know the gender of the baby? Of course, Mr. Carlton went. And we were both funny. Like I said, we have a son. He has a son from a previous marriage. And so all his eggs were in the girl basket.
Right.
I think mine were too.
Okay. Okay.
And so we went and the technician said, now, are you sure you want to know what the baby is? Because I'm sure of what the baby is. And so we're like, yeah, we want to know. So she goes, it's a boy. And Carlton looks at me and goes, you want to try again? And I go, okay, so now you got jokes.
Right.
So we did find out it was a boy and
Okay.
had time to settle in on that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, so it's a boy and CJ is born. What was that day like? And I
That
love this
day,
story about
yes.
some of what you share with me.
Yes, that day was phenomenal. Like I said, pregnancy was really easy. He was born on a Tuesday morning. That Monday was the only day I had ever missed from work the entire pregnancy.
Oh, wow.
And I wasn't ill. I wasn't feeling bad. I had had a slight cold over the weekend.
Okay.
And more than anything, I was tired.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I called in to take the day off that Monday. So Tuesday I got up, getting ready to go to work, and surprise, my water broke.
Wow.
And so, I called into the doctor's office and they said, okay, well, come now. And we live in Clinton, Maryland. CJ was born in Washington, D.C., actually.
Okay.
Because that's where my doctors were. So they delivered at a hospital in Washington. So we had a little trek and it was rush hour.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, so my water broke and, we're on the way and it's raining. And
Oh,
so you know what the
wow.
rain does to traffic in the DMV.
Right.
So we start out and the first thing I tell my husband is, okay, so I need you to stop at 7-Eleven. And
Okay.
he's like, stop at 7-Eleven? I go, yes. I need you to get me a cup of coffee
Okay.
and 2 blueberry donuts because Which, don't do that. People that are pregnant, don't do that. Because when we get to the hospital, they're not going to let me have anything to eat. And I don't know how long this process is going to take. So him being a dutiful husband did what I asked him to do. And so when we got to the hospital, actually was probably about 2 hours after I had called. And they were starting to get concerned because they thought something had happened. So when I got, oh, Miss Richardson, where were you? We were so concerned. I go, oh, we were fine. It's raining. Traffic's heavy. And I had to have my coffee and donuts. And they were like, what? So we get to the hospital and, you know, because I'm telling them that my water broke, but I'm not having any contractions.
Right.
So, you know, they hook you up to all these monitors and they're asking me, you don't feel that? And I go, feel what? And they go, no, you are having contractions.
Oh, wow.
Again, part of my gift package.
Right,
okay.
right.
Because I'm saying, no, I don't feel anything. And so at one point they became concerned because CJ's heart rate decelerated.
Okay.
And so they said, you know, we can give you something to bring the contractions on stronger, or you may want to opt for a C-section.
Okay. Okay.
And so she said, the doctor said, I'll step out of the room and allow you to discuss this with your husband. I go, you don't need to go nowhere. I don't need to discuss that with him. Because if you give me something and I go into 36, 42 hours, 48 hours of labor,
right,
he's not going to feel a thing. So let's get the operating room ready. So I opted for a cesarean.
Okay.
Yeah, so we got to the hospital at about 9 a.m. By the time I opted for a cesarean, we had to wait. There was already someone in there. So by the time they got the operating room ready and got me all prepped and everything, we got in there. We got to the hospital about 9 a.m. He was born at 12:19 p.m.
Wow.
So I had him and I was back in my room for my lunch tray. Food is important to me, okay? So it was a very easy, very quick. You know, and it's funny because you watch all these things on TV, you know, where people are in labor for 48 hours,
right.
you know, and
exactly.
know, they turn into monsters. And I knew I didn't want to do that. So I'm glad that I chose to go the route we went. And Carlton was in full support.
Yeah, absolutely. And what day was it?
It was on March the 26th. When I had him. Now, when you have a C-section, you get 4 days in the hospital. So, you know, it's all exciting. You know, everything's happening with you got this newborn and everything's going on. So I'm scheduled to be released from the hospital on March 30th, which is my birthday.
Right.
And so the nurse comes in. She's like, oh, today's your day to go home. And by the way, happy birthday. And I'm thinking, I've been so consumed with having this baby, I forgot my birthday.
Right.
So I took him home. He was my 45th birthday gift.
Wow.
From God that year.
Wow. I love it. I love it. Okay. Now, what was it like raising a newborn at 45? Talk about that.
It was, first of all, of course, very joy-filled. Although I had never raised an infant, I had helped with so many people's children until I felt that I had some basic knowledge of what to do, because they don't come with instruction manuals.
Right.
So I thought I had some basic knowledge of what to do. I'm not thinking past these 8 weeks that I'm going to have off from work. So I'm happy and I'm having a good time and I'm taking care of him. And then all of a sudden I look up one day and I say, in 2 weeks, he has to have somewhere to go. And I've not made that preparation. So it was, you don't know everything to do. And so at this point, now I'm starting to panic because I need to go back to work.
Right.
And I don't have anywhere to take this little person. And what are we going to do? So it wasn't hard taking care of him. I just wasn't aware of everything that went past the joy. The preparations that needed to take place past the joy. Yeah.
Now, what was your community like as far as help goes? I know one of my questions I had for you was, how was it as far as reaching out to other moms and just others that were available to help and, just talk about that a little bit.
Of course, I had fantastic support, great church community, which was there at my beck and call. My mother-in-law and father-in-law who were 2 miles from us. So that was fantastic, and of course people and I appreciated the fact, Danielle, that people were willing to help, but they didn't bum rush us.
Okay.
Because it's already an overwhelming time.
Yeah.
So people were, if you need me, call me. I will be there. And so when those times came, I was able to pick up the phone and call and say, hey, or ask questions because I don't know. I've never had a baby before.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Right.
So, and then friends that I had down through the years, like I said, people who I had helped with their children when they were small. Everyone was just anxious to rally. So I had a great support package and I was not afraid to use them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, did you experience any challenges early on? I mean, you kind of hit on, not thinking past the 8 weeks, but what were some of the challenges early on raising your son?
Early on, just being aware of the tremendous responsibility. We now have this life that we are responsible for. And because we are people of faith, you begin to think, okay, so this little being has a purpose too. And so you begin to pray, God, give us the wisdom to know what to do with this person. Because you've charted a path for him. And we don't want to be roadblocks in his path. Right. So just thinking everything through, it's a lot of time of thinking, especially because you're home and you're looking at this little person. And so you just begin to think of the awesomeness of the task that has been handed you,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I want you to share a funny memory or fun memory of CJ as a young boy.
That boy is a package of fun. I think one of the funniest moments that I can remember early when he was a small child, and as you all know, CJ's a drummer. CJ beat on things before he could walk. So I should have known that was coming. When I would notice him beating, I went and bought a big box of pencils, unsharpened pencils, of course.
Okay.
Just gotta be careful, safety first. And so he would just walk around beating on it. Everything. And so, later on he developed and he got his first little drum set. And then at maybe 7 or 8, he asked for an electronic drum set. Okay. Which I wasn't aware of existed. I didn't know it was going to be a mother's dream come true. Because they have their headphones on and they're the ones that hear the beats. That's right. You just hear the tap, tap, tap. And so we got him that. And so one day I come in the house and now all of a sudden, I can hear the beats instead of the taps. Okay. So I'm like, CJ, what did you do? Right. And he goes, oh, Mom, it was easy. Red to red, yellow to yellow, black to black. I just took these cords and I plugged them into the back of my TV. And so now the speaker from the TV is allowing me to hear myself drumming. Okay. And so now it's time for one of my all-time mom moments. Because, we repeat things that we heard. And I go, boy, you're going to keep plugging stuff in. And one day you're going to knock yourself all the way across the room. Because that's what Mom said. Right. And I remember him just looking up at me and saying, Mom, if death and life is in the power of the tongue, why would you say something like that? And I just lost it. So I'm like, okay, so you're going to give me back the word, right? So yeah, that was a funny moment. I've had many, but that was one of my treasured moments.
I love that. Go ahead, CJ.
That's right. Don't be telling me I'm going to knock myself across the room.
Right. I love that. Now, did CJ ever ask for any siblings?
I don't ever remember CJ asking for siblings.
Okay.
When he was born, his brother was a senior in high school. I say he was graduating from high school. CJ was born in March. Brian graduated in May. And Brian stayed around and worked for a while.
Okay.
In our area. He actually, his birth mom lives in Columbia, South Carolina. That's where he and his family live now.
Okay.
And so I don't think that he ever asked for siblings as he got older. I don't remember that. I don't remember him asking for siblings. I would remember saying, you know, if that I was glad that God, of course, that God gave you to us, and that if you're ever in doubt of whether or not you have a sibling, I believe you do, because I think you're two kids in one.
I was waiting. I was like, what is Mrs. Marilyn about to say?
Yes, but I don't think
funny.
I ever remember him specifically asking for siblings.
Okay. Now, did you and Mr. Carlton want any more children, or?
I don't think. Now, people said, you know, you all should go ahead and have another one right away.
Okay.
You know, people said that.
Mm-hmm.
I was so grateful that we had him. And, you know, of course, in God, you don't roll the dice. There's no rolling the dice in God. But I felt like, why roll the dice again? You know, again, that fear of the first experience of losing a child. So now, in hindsight, watching a child grow up, basically an only child, it would have been nice for him to have had a sibling, but I don't regret that we didn't.
Okay. Awesome. So in CJ's teenage years, how were your parenting methods changing at this point? Talk about that.
At this point, our parenting methods were definitely changing, because they go from that sweet little, you know, I love you, mommy person, to a person with their own ideals, with their own concepts. Now he has a friend group. You know, and even in that friend group, it was amazing, because two of his closest friends at that point in his life, they also had mature parents. So it was like God had given us this little community. And I think when he became a teenager, our parenting skills changed, because what we didn't want to do was smother and shelter him from the realities of life. So then you begin to pray for the wisdom. You know, God, how do I let him fly? He was the youngest of the three that he hung around with. And so they started driving before he did. So now we're faced with him wanting to get in the car with what I feel are unexperienced drivers. You know, we're a nervous wreck. I'm a nervous wreck. But at the same time, you have to trust God. That the same God that protects him when he's in your presence is the same God that protects him when he's not.
That's right. Absolutely. So CJ having friends that also had mature parents, like you explained, even with that, do you feel as if CJ had it more difficult having mature parents or less difficult?
I asked him periodically at various stages in his life and in his development and in his maturity if it bothered him that he had older parents. I said, because we go to PTA functions, and we're looking at all the other parents, and they look like your brother. You know, does that bother you? And I can remember him very specifically telling me, Mom, it does not bother me. He says, and I'm very grateful. He said, because sometimes I hear my friends' parents cursing at them, you know, not always seemingly wanting to be bothered He said, and I've never felt that with you and Dad. So it not only does it not bother me, I'm very thankful for it. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, so he was able to see the
Yeah,
difference for
yeah.
himself. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Now talk about if you believe there are any advantages being a baby boomer raising a Gen Zer.
I believe that there are advantages and I believe that there are challenges.
Okay.
And the reason the advantages are, as we spoken earlier on being settled, we're at an age where we're settled on a lot of things. And at that point, you just don't sweat the small stuff. So I think that's an advantage.
Okay.
The challenge is these kids are a completely different generation. I mean, like, we have 40 years between us. So not only is it a literal generation, they are not the do as I say kids. They are not the kids that don't question what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But God graces you with that wisdom to handle that.
Okay.
You know? And so I think that not only is it challenging, but a different advantage is being people of faith. That played a tremendous part in it. But they have their own ideals. They have their own philosophies. They were born into technology.
That's right.
And so they know how to go look for things for themselves without looking for the set of encyclopedias like I did when I was growing up. They know how to go look for things. They're on Twitter. I mean, you know, they're getting their news from different sources.
That's right.
They are politically connected. They are connected to causes, and they're not just going to let you say anything and they not check it.
Right.
And so you have to be okay with that.
I was going to ask, how is that? You know, like, is it, because you said it's challenging, right? So how do you, without saying, boy, if you don't, you know, how do you?
Right. You breathe. You take a lot of deep breaths. You know, I can cite one specific incident, if I may, where I was sharing with him something that I thought something that someone told me that I thought was funny. And it related to this whole LGBTQ plus community, which he knows where we stand on that because of our faith and because of that belief. And he didn't laugh. And I said, so I'm assuming you didn't think that was funny. And he goes, no, I didn't think it was funny.
Okay.
He said, because while I stand on my faith and I am unwavering, I want to respect them to the same degree that I want them to respect me. He goes, Mom, I have friends and I would never be disrespectful. And I think that what you just joked about was disrespectful. So it's at times like that, you know what? You have to check yourself.
Wow.
Maybe I wasn't as graceful
when
I said what I said. And thank you for bringing your point of view to the table. And you're exactly right. So it's a balance. You know, because, you know, our parents would say, shut up.
Right.
You know? No, I said, you know, but this is not the I said generation, but they are so fierce and phenomenal until when God allows you to see that, then you just kind of check yourself without compromise, because he didn't say he was compromising, but he had his own set of opinions about the matter.
And I think it's good that you listened, because like you said, some other parents may have just told him to shut up or be quiet, you don't know what you're talking about. But the fact that you listened, and I'm sure that means a lot for him.
Yes. And it is a lot of listening, Danielle. It's a lot of listening without filters. Not listening so that as soon as you finish saying what you're saying, I can correct you.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of listening, prayerful listening. So that when he's done, God, what do I say?
That's good. That's good. That's really good. That's wisdom for sure. So I think I think maybe you hit on a bit of the challenge with, raising a Gen Zer, but are there any other things that stand out?
I would say the one thing that comes to mind, and I'm not going to put him on blast, they are a tattoo generation.
Yes, I agree.
Baby boomers are not.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
Yeah,
you learn to choose your battles.
yeah.
I can remember when he first approached me about wanting a tattoo for his 18th birthday. And once I picked myself up off the floor,
Absolutely.
Yes. and I realized that because I had done my research in the state of Maryland at 18, he didn't need my permission.
Okay.
He could have gone. He was driving. He had a car. He could have gone and gotten one and come home and said, ta-da.
Wow.
But he didn't.
That. Okay.
Again, another conversation. And so although it would not have been my choice of things for him to do,
Right.
I said, what mother's going to ask you to do is, number one, be respectful in what you get, which I already knew he would be. And then I'm going to ask you not to get one anywhere that you cannot cover with an article of clothing. Because later in life, you have to go into a job market.
That's right.
And you don't want your neck and your face and the back of your hands because people will judge you by that. So that was one of the biggest, most recent challenges.
Okay. Is there a moment of breakthrough while raising CJ that stands out in your mind?
Yes. There's a moment of breakthrough. I think my breakthrough moment came the first time he opposed me on something. And when I say opposed me on something, CJ has never been disrespectful.
Okay.
He has never been an obstinate child.
Wow.
He is just, we're blessed.
Wow.
He has just always been a child. Okay, I'll share an instance.
Okay.
When he was a sophomore in high school, he applied for and was given the job of drum major of his marching band, which was a great accomplishment because normally they would require the person to be a junior or a senior. So his sophomore year, he's drum major. We're there. I was there anyway. I was there when he was just, a part of the saxophone section. But, I'm there. That's my boy. He's got the mace. He's doing his thing. And so going into his junior year, he also had an opportunity to be a part of a dance academy at his school. Well, the schedules began to conflict. And so his band director sent me an email and CC'd him and said, you need to make a decision. You can't do both. You can still be in the band, but you cannot have a leadership position if you're not going to be able to make the rehearsals and the practices and fulfill your obligations.
Right.
So as soon as I read the email, I text him. And I go, you're not giving up being drum major. Boom. That's just it.
Right.
He texts me back and says, isn't this at least worth a conversation when we get home? Excuse me.
Wow.
So we did have a conversation. And when he laid out the reasons why at this point he felt like the dance academy was going to be more advantageous than being drum major. And he realized he didn't have to give up being in a band. He just couldn't have that leadership responsibility. And he said, Mom, I have watched you all be leaders. Leadership requires 100%. I can't give it that right now. And so I'm asking you to allow me to chart this course.
Wow.
And I said, go for it. So I think the breakthrough was realizing he has his own reasons for things. You don't just get to tell them what they're going to do. That's different, so different from our generation. If our parents said, this is what you're going to do, this is what you're going to do.
Right.
So that breakthrough moment for me was Mom, trust the fact, and I just heard this on a show just last week, trust the fact that his wings work.
That's good.
Trust the fact that his wings work.
That's good.
And trust the fact that something you all have planted in him has taken root. So step back
Yeah.
and watch God.
Wow.
So that was a
Wow.
breakthrough for me.
Absolutely. And you said he was a sophomore, so he was only about 15 or 16.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very mature response, CJ.
Yeah.
Wow. So you and CJ are very close.
We
I
are.
remember you shared that at our outing a few months ago. So just talk about your relationship with them.
CJ and I are very close. He has a close relationship with his dad, but it's a different relationship. Anybody that's a boy mom knows that's a thing.
Yeah.
Being a boy mom is a thing. We are very close. I have tried to present a safe space for him to be able to talk to me about whatever he feels like he wants to talk to me about. I think that has, he called me on the way here. I mean, he's working. He's on his, break from work. Mom, where are you? I've provided a safe space of communication, and I think that has forged a closeness. Now, do I want to know everything? No, I absolutely do not. No parent wants to know everything. My parents didn't know everything, and I don't want to know everything.
Right.
But you provide a safe place for him. It is a close relationship, and I don't think that there's anything that he doesn't feel like he can bring to me.
Okay.
And that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
That's a good thing.
Wow.
If there is, I don't know it. You watch their moods, you watch their posture, and everything is very telling. And I don't think that there would be something that he wouldn't bring to the table if he thought he needed to.
Wow. Okay. That's an awesome thing, I'm sure, to be able to say as a mom. Absolutely. Of
It
their,
is.
with their child. So now that CJ is an adult, and he still lives at home, right?
He still lives at home.
So just talk about how it is now with, taking a step back because he's an adult, but he's still in your house. You know that he's still learning how to be a young man and all these things.
Yes.
How is it now being a mom of an adult child?
Now the focus shifts to what we think you need to know for the rest of your life. Like you said, he is living at home. You are 20 years old, but you are under our roof. So I'm going to ask you to be respectful. We are going to ask you to be respectful about the times that you come and go.
Yeah.
Now, people ask me, does he have a curfew? He does not.
Okay.
And the reason I say that, Danielle, is because I want him to have enough of what we've planted in him to be able to say, I'm not going in my parents' house after a certain time.
Right.
And he, or if he's been somewhere and he's running late, he calls, he texts. So it's very different because you have to let them be adults. He is an adult. He's 20. You try to guide them, particularly in the arena of finances. Because he's working a full-time job. He has more money that belongs to him now than he's ever had. And he spends it like wildfire. So the training them, this is important. This is what a budget looks like.
Yeah.
Yes, you're staying in your parents' house. Yes, you contribute. And he does contribute.
Okay.
Yes, we do not charge him rent.
Okay.
But he contributes. I asked him to contribute. He willingly did it. So this is a budget. This is what it looks like. And, if you go through everything in a week and you don't get paid for another week, you have a problem, bud.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like I said, he has a car. He understands gas prices.
Yeah.
So now the parenting shifts to preparation for adulthood. More adulthood.
Okay.
Preparation for, where you think you are with your lady friends, Just different. It's just different and it's challenging.
Yeah.
Because now you're watching your baby,
Yeah.
Try out his own wings. So
To you, time flies. To him, he's like, Mom.
Yes.
To you
Yes.
remember all those moments, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, I imagine
Exactly.
taking a step back is definitely challenging.
Yes, it is.
So I believe I know your answer to this based on all that you've shared, but would you say that you are content with marrying and having a child in your 40s?
Very content. Very content. And I don't think that anything happened that wasn't supposed to happen when it was supposed to happen. Yes, I'm very content. And you have to be careful and you have to know that God has a plan for your life. Because people say, when I was in my late 20s going into 30, sure, my mom, my sister was saying, are you ever going to get married?
Right. I mean,
your biological clock is ticking,
Yeah.
But it's important to know that we as believers should not hang our desires on a worldly clock.
That's right.
Because God works outside of time.
Yes, he does. I'm learning. I'm learning. Doesn't feel good always. But
I
I'm
know,
learning.
he does. He works
Yes.
outside of time.
Yeah.
So yes,
right.
I am very content.
Yes.
I'm very content.
Well, we are wrapping up this episode, Mrs. Marilyn, but before we wrap it up, I want you to share with our audience any advice, wisdom, encouragement that you have for them.
Thank you, gladly. The wisdom and encouragement that I could share for anyone, whatever you're waiting on from God, just know that according to Jeremiah 29:11, he said, I know the thoughts that I think toward you. He said, and they are thoughts of peace and not evil, and to bring you to an expected end. So the thing that I would want to encourage you to know, first of all, you're on God's mind.
Yeah.
He said, I know the thoughts I think of you. That means you're on his mind.
That's right.
Your situation, your concerns, they're on his mind. And he has an expected end.
Yep.
We don't always see it, but he does. It's kind of like I've been told sometimes filmmakers shoot the last scene of a film first because they know how they want it to end.
Yeah.
And then they make the rest of the script lead up to the final scene. God's got the final scene.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes.
Wow. Well, Mrs. Marilyn, this has been a great conversation. The way that you expounded on things just encourages me, and I took mental notes.
Great.
So that I can, when children come for us, okay, Mrs. Marilyn said this, so let me, you definitely shared a lot, and I just thank you so much again for being on this episode and sharing a bit of your story, and I know that it's going to bless others who watch for sure.
I sure pray that it does. And
Yes.
thank you again for having me.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Wow. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. I know that I was blessed, and I'm pretty sure you were blessed too just by what you heard today. And leave a comment in the comment section if there's anything that stood out from this episode. Make sure you share it with someone that can relate, or just that they will be blessed by the wisdom that was shared. So go ahead and share this episode and hit like. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe to the channel Breakthrough Conversations. Again, thank you so much for tuning in today. Have a wonderful day.